Radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan. The voice of the Eagle kami, di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay atin sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng eskwela. Radyo, radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, Katipunero sugod. Todo sa kayod, tunong at tulong. Di pagka Blue Eagle, galing hiting at tigil.
Let us understand mental health and explore how we can take care of our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. Welcome to your weekly slice of mental health tips and tidbits with Pat and B, here on MindEd.
Sa'yo sumisilo kapag ang puso ko'y pagod.
Good evening. Good evening and welcome to another comeback episode ulit. Pangatlong episode na natin to ng comeback.
Every time.
Of
Every single
MindEd.
time.
Yeah, exactly. So this is still your weekly slice of mental health tips and tidbits. Again, my name is V. I am just a letter.
And my name is Pat. Hi. It's been a weird kind of week, hasn't it been? For me, I don't know.
Kaya?
I'm thinking about like how it's been, and I was preparing for the show, and I was thinking in my head while I was, washing dishes, because as you do while you work from home. Isip ko parang talaga Thursday na pala. Patapos na ulit. Tapos magsi-September na pala next week. Hindi ko I can't like wrap my head around it. So it's been a quick week. So mamaya na ako. Ikaw na muna, B. Kamusta ka?
Well, gusto mo yung may pause.
Oo.
Kasi blink muna.
Oo.
No, I actually just got from another speaking engagement before this one. So, we were invited by for the Linggo ng Musikang Pilipino. So, it's a celebration. Actually, the celebration according to Presidential Proclamation something. I am so sorry, OPM, hindi ko na-memorize yun. That every end of July, last week of July, we celebrate and we commemorate Linggo ng Musikang Pilipino. So, it started actually with a series of lectures by Mr. Noel Cabangon, kay Mr. or Maestro Ryan Cayabyab. But then, of course, nagkaroon ng logistical parang limitations. So instead of having that celebration during that week, the last week of July, ano na lang, parang in-extend na lang to August. Total naman, buwan ng wika, di ba? So, okay pa rin. Sakto pa rin naman siya. So, we had like a series of parang lectures din, tapos yung mga performances, of course, from our artists or Filipino artists, sobrang huhusay. And then kanina nga we were invited to have an hour long din siya na discussion on digital marketing for music or for music artists, for musicians basically. So yun, so kanina pa ako daldal lang daldal.
Ah,
Oo,
mali pala na
ganun.
pinasalita kita muna. Sorry. Dapat pinarush mo pala yung boss. I am so sorry. But
That's okay.
how did it
It's
go though?
totally fine.
How did your talk go?
Okay siya. It was great and engaging din. Kasi you can see the comments din kasi dun sa comment section, obviously.
Mm.
And then may mga artists din na nahalo rin, may mga emerging, especially that I'm just really happy that we were able to share tips and best practices.
Mm.
Especially yun naman yung, I think I mentioned it, the first episode, the first comeback episode, and then
Mhm.
last week also with Sir Gino and Maxine,
Yeah.
na
Yeah.
naramdam namin yung hiccups and struggles of the music industry, especially the gigging community nga, and what they can do. Baga parang
Mhm.
that's what we gave them, basically parang tips, and actually practical tips lang din
Mhm.
ano yung pwede nilang gawin while in quarantine, and while we have all of these restrictions, we can go to the studio to record songs,
Yeah.
mga ganun.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we did, and I'm just really just really happy. Sana talaga nga makatulong yan.
Yeah.
But yeah, based on the comments, parang marami namang hearts.
Okay. Okay.
So I hope yung hearts
Yeah.
hearts talaga siya. But yeah,
Oh, no.
other than that, the week was super 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 eventful, I'd
Mhm.
say.
Mhm.
I will stop at that.
Sige. Okay. I'm happy
How
to see
about
though
you?
that I'm happy to see that the Filipino music scene is thriving, regardless of the situation. 'Di ba? Ganun naman talaga tayo eh. Ma, resourceful is the word I'm looking for.
Yes,
Maparaan.
yes.
Yan.
Mm-mm.
Ako naman, from a personal standpoint, it's been crazy kasi I think, when was it? It was just yesterday that we came from the hospital. Kasi nandito na anak namin. Hindi, joke na, wala pa. We had an OB appointment, and
Okay.
Chai also had her some checkups. And so the baby's coming along pretty nicely, at a good size for now. We still have about maybe 3 to 4 weeks before Cassie comes.
Mhm.
But apart from that, everything is really just kind of like preparation talaga. On the work side of things naman, it's pretty much not, I wouldn't say the same, because the work is pretty dynamic as it is, but I think the concerns really are just really about adapting, and we were talking about this last week, that school's coming up for a lot of people, for a lot of kids, and there's lots of preparation around that, not just with the students themselves, but also with the educators, with parents. And so there's a lot of navigating around that, and a lot of like problem solving and troubleshooting, and just general preparation, I think. And it's also heartening kind of to see that people are really just trying to move forward, whether they're combating or struggling with like a diagnosed mental illness or not. It's if people are just like really thinking to like move forward, and it's so encouraging to see, as a person who works in mental health, to see people really like push, because a lot of the time you see like other people just want to give up, but you see people really like fighting, and so it's very encouraging for me to see also. And it's something I think I take for granted sometimes, not all of the time, but sometimes.
Mhm.
So nakakatuwa makita. Kayo guys, people who are listening right now, and people who eventually will be listening, how are you? Please share with us in the comments. We will be reading them later, so kayo mag-alala. But we do want to know how you guys are doing. And so this brings us to the next part, which is a break. So we have a special guest. He's already with us here, but he's there in secret. So we'll take a very, very short break to listen to a song. Surprise na lang yung song, and we'll see you in a few minutes. Tama ba, Abby?
Yes, a few minutes. Wag hours.
Wag hours. Okay.
Yes.
Sige, fair.
See you later.
All right. See you later. Di ko alam kung nagde-dead air tayo or
Yeah.
oo.
Sige,
Oo ba?
maybe we just talk muna. And trust it. Ito talaga nangyayari pagka live.
Stuff. Okay lang yan? Oo.
Yeah.
It happens. So we just kind of like, let's just move on, I think. Sige na nga.
Yeah,
Okay
sige.
lang. Oo.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so,
And we're back.
and we're back. Kunwari nawala kami, pero hindi talaga. But sige, so, why? But it's okay. So our next guest, our guest today is a very 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 special person to me, professionally, very much so. Not just because he's the executive director of where I work, but because he's also my supervisor, and I get a lot of wisdom, if you'd call it that, from him. And so this guest is no other than Father Jordan Orbe, or Father Jordy. Father Jordy, you around?
Yes.
Hi,
Hello,
Father.
good evening.
Yes. Tingnan lang natin kung lalabas ka sa stream. Wait lang, sige. Hintay tayo
Okay.
ng mga
Sige.
5 seconds. Makikita ba natin?
Yes,
Yun na,
yes.
may
I
countdown.
can
Pero
already
naririnig ka
see-
naman.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can actually see Father.
Okay,
Sige.
I see stuff happening, but sige lang. So, Father Jordy, welcome. Okay, here
Thank you.
are. Okay, I see you on the stream now. Welcome to MindEd, our weekly slice of mental health tips and tidbits. I know I only ever really gave you like a very, very short intro of what this is, but as you can see, we're very not professional. So please don't think that this is like a super professional show. This is pretty much just a conversation, and I hope that.
Tambayan.
Yeah. It's fine. I mean, it's very laid back, very easy. Diba? I think which is helpful.
Oo.
Hindi
And
masyadong
we-
stiff, diba? Hindi masyadong...
Yes, exactly. We didn't want you to
Yes,
be
oo.
stressed also at the end of what I think might
Exactly.
have been a really busy day for you also.
Yeah.
Oh my
Diba?
gosh. Ayan, kumustahin na natin si Father. Father,
Yes,
sama ka sa
exactly.
kumustahan portion.
Oo.
The extended
Yeah.
kumustahan portion.
Oo.
How are you pa? How have you been? How was your week?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So magandang gabi sa inyo lahat. Magandang gabi, Bea and Patrick. So I was listening to your intro and parang nakarelate ako dun sa mga sinabi nyo. No? Parang we're really adjusting to this time, even work-wise, and trying to do a lot of adjusting, a lot of shifting from on-site, face-to-face work. So later I will share a little bit about my work. Pero yun, parang adjusting at saka talagang medyo stressful, no? Pero we're trying our best. So so far okay pa naman. Di pa naman ako nagpapanik or anything.
Mhm.
So, yun
Paano
lang.
naman? Parang it's you seem fairly like chill and relaxed, and it's heartening to see also
Yeah.
with our executive director being so chill and relaxed also. So I'm happy to see that. So Father Jordy, sige, for the benefit of new listeners or viewers or people who aren't super familiar with our line of work or with yours, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, so I'm a Jesuit priest. I was ordained in 2012, but I have been a Jesuit since 1999. So that's a little more than 20 years. No, I think CP saw us even when we were not yet priests. No, Vienna.
Yes
so,
po.
so you remember
Wala
those
akong
times.
katanda.
Hindi naman halata. Hindi naman halata for
Katagal
both
sa
of us.
Chescom. Ayan.
Sa Jesco, yeah.
That's true.
So I've been a Jesuit for more than 20 years and a priest for a little over around 8 years. No? But now my assignment is executive director of Emmaus Center for Psychospiritual Foundation. For formation. Tinaman nagkamali pa ako. Psychospiritual formation. No? So personally muna, before I entered, I was working in a public relations company kasi yung bachelor's degree ko sa UP was broadcom. So parang things like this parang throw me back to college days kasi may radyo UP ano kami noon DZUP. So pero maliit lang yun and we would try out different things for programs. So that's my background and then I found myself entering the Jesuits. No? So yun pa lang habang storya na yun that hindi kasya sa oras na to. My first assignment though as a Jesuit was chaplain of Philippine General Hospital for 2 years. And then I worked there. Tapos talagang maganda yung experience ko doon. And then after that, I left for further studies. I finished a doctorate in clinical psychology sa labas ng bansa. So, and then when I came back, they made me executive director sa Emmaus Center. So, didiretso na ba ako? Or,
May
yeah,
question
sige.
ako, Father. From
Okay.
Bodcom,
Hmm.
clinical psychology, paano po nangyari
Yeah.
yun?
Oo.
Or
Good
saan po
question.
nangyari?
Yeah, kasi actually sa totoo lang, when I entered the Jesuits, parang part of me was like, oh, may Jesuit communication naman. So parang it's like, a natural fit. Pero when I was a younger Jesuit, I became involved in retreat work, yung parang spiritual direction work. And then I realized na doon pa lang, parang people were going to retreats and many of them could benefit from another form of intervention. No? Kasi they had anxiety, they had depression. And while I was giving spiritual direction or retreat, I found myself not equipped to deal with those very specific, sometimes acute issues. No? So parang doon ako nagkaroon ng interest. And then something about the interior life really attracted me. Yung parang sa tingin ko kasi human behavior, and lumalabas yung pagka-psych nerd ko dito. Parang human behavior always has a logic. Kahit na pag tinitingnan natin from sa labas, parang ano mo ginagawa? Ang weird naman ng taong yan. Pero kung papasukan mo yung mundo ng taong yun, if you're going to enter that person's mind and heart, that behavior will make sense. So parang doon ako na-fascinate. So doon ako nagsimula. Pero sabi ko, kailangan ko ng further training dito. So doon ako napunta. Parang nagkaroon ako ng interest for psychology and then I pursued it. No? Yan.
Ang galing. So, yung sinabi ni Father na pasukin ang isip at ang puso, the mind and the heart.
Mm-mm.
Ang galing. Sige, magsa-psych na rin po ako.
Okay.
Yun pala yung
Done.
conclusion ko bigla. Okay. Sige, Father, sige. Tapos dali po yung kwento natin. So, from pagbalik niyo po ba dito, or were you assigned agad dito sa parang psych-related na assignment, or ano po pong nangyari?
Well, the main reason why I was sent to further studies sa psychology was really to go back and work for Emmaus Center. So, kahit nung nasa PGH ako after ordination, parang tinanong ako, are you okay to go back to Emmaus? Kasi even before ordination, doon na ako nagtatrabaho na ako doon, no? Tapos sabi ko, okay sa akin, pero I wanted further training, no? Na I wanted to really be, yung parang talagang mahone yung skills ko, especially in clinical work. So pinayagan naman ako, tapos naghanap ako ng program na talagang clinical psychology, which was more applied. No? So hindi siya PhD psych, but it's PsyD, it's a doctorate in psychology. Kasi parang first year pa lang, magtatrabaho ko na sa clinic. So parang yun din hinahanap ko na program, na parang talagang sasabak ka, tapos babad ka sa clinical work. And thankfully, it was a good experience for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
As a chaplain though in PGH, parang my understanding kasi of like chaplaincy, there's a lot of, I think, like counseling, but of course not necessarily like psychological counseling work, but
Yeah.
and like did you have some experience there also from PGH pala?
Oh, yeah. So, ang maganda sa PGH actually, it's because Philippine General Hospital, of course, is in the UP Manila campus. No? So, you're serving the hospital, you're serving the University of the Philippines Manila campus. You're also serving yung mga offices and communities around the area. So, it's really a good exposure, no, for a young priest. Tapos, syempre, ang PGH is for a lot of the patients there are really from poor areas in the country, sa iba-ibang probinsya. So talagang kung gusto mo maka-experience at maka-encounter ng human suffering, no? I really saw there. And at the same time, yun yung sa akin, human suffering but also resilience. Yung human resilience, no? Yung doon mo makita yung the human spirit, the Filipino human spirit, the faith of the Filipino. Yung parang ganon, no? In fact, recently, bumalik ako doon kasi nung nagsimula yung lockdown, nag-volunteer ako doon to stay there for 4 weeks as reliever chaplain. So parang nung dineclare yung PGH na maging COVID, facility. Sabi ko, I want to be there. I want to help out. So, nag-volunteer ako doon. Kaibigan ko yung head chaplain doon, si Father Lito. So, I helped him out for around 4 weeks. No? So, nagkaroon din kami ng, ano doon, yung mga, for the frontline healthcare workers, mga debriefing, yung mga ganun. So, it was a good experience for me to go back.
Yeah.
So, yun.
Thank you for that. I personally want to thank you for your service. Not just in this organization, but also like to the frontliners. Sana pala sinabihan mo ako para sumama ako.
Hindi, kawawa naman yung wife mo, no? Oo nga.
Exactly.
Yep.
Kawawa, oo nga.
I-imagine ko na yung conversation.
Di ba?
No.
Oo.
Okay, sige.
Gusto ko bumalik doon actually pag hopefully I can go back even just for a short time, no? It's a special place for me.
Yeah.
So
That's
anyway.
your first that was the first like foray into
Yeah. Oo.
So I guess you're saying, I think for a lot of us kasi as psychological professionals, there's always this one pivotal moment. For me, it was when I had a conversation with Dr. Inge when I was still in first year college, and that kind of really like set me on my path. But for you, it was the retreats.
Yeah.
So those must have been really, really impactful retreats.
Yeah. So I would encounter them in people, but also in my own personal life, no. So kung ang mga Jesuits kasi we go through 8-day retreat every year, no, the spiritual exercises, 8 Ignatius. Because around that time, when I would pray the gospel scenes of parang healing of Jesus, yung mga healing scenes na lumalabas sa akin, hindi yung nagpagaling siya ng mga bulag or mga ganun.
Yeah.
The healing scenes that really kind of stood out for me were just conversations that he had with people. No, yung parang sabi ko, oo, parang kahit yung pakikipag-usap mo sa mga tao, that in itself was very healing. So, doon parang kumbaga nako-confirm in my own prayer and in my experiences sa ministry, yung that deep desire, no?
Yeah.
Na parang to provide that space for people, they can experience that space where they can just be themselves without any judgment. Yung ganun ba? Parang, so it also informed my own approach in therapy, how I look at clients, parang ganun, no? Kahit na, even if I don't, kasi dun sa nagtrabaho ko sa labas, nag-aaral ako sa States, I would work in a clinic na hindi ako pare. So parang I would just be a psychologist, I just be a psychotherapist. Kasi alam niyo naman sa States, very secular, diba?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I will not introduce myself as a priest. Pero even in those settings na kahit therapist ako, at the back of my mind, the grace of God is still operating. Yung parang ganon,
Yes.
hindi explicitly. But it's just the same. It's like the extension of my priestly ministry.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't explicitly religious. So parang
Right.
malalim yun talaga siya sa akin. No? I always describe my being a psychologist as like a vocation within a vocation. Parang ganon.
Right.
No?
Right.
Sorry, I can go on and on. I just want to stop.
No,
That's
Parang-
we're enjoying.
Dalang-dala mo nga eh. Sobrang natutuwa. Hindi, I've always found it that I've always found that a little difficult, to be honest. Na, personally, I'm a very, very spiritual person. Like I find that my spiritual relationship with God is really deeply rooted and founded. But I find myself sometimes having to hold back because I don't want to make a conversation with another person, with a client perhaps or a patient, completely about your spirituality, because of course that's not what they came to talk about.
Yeah,
And I can imagine that the challenge was even more so pronounced for you, given that you're a priest and that was, you're a professed person. So
right.
was that difficult? Na parang
I had to learn to navigate that kasi and really I'm thankful for all my supervisors kasi I've been very open to them na pare ako, this is part of my identity. And I always say na the challenge is how do I really be effective as a therapist, a psychologist, and not just a priest, because that's a very different role, no? And I find myself being challenged kasi alam niyo pag pare, lalo na pag galing ka sa isang Catholic country like ours, it comes with it a lot of meaning and a lot of power, no? Na parang pari ka, fathers, what father says, parang ganun, no? Parang ko niya. but that's just part of the identity, especially for a Catholic country. So I had to be very mindful of that. And if I have Catholic clients, for example, I'd be, and they know that I'm a priest, I would be very clear na parang our work is not me as priest, no? So hindi ito confession, hindi ito spiritual direction, but we will really look at it as therapy, no?
Yeah.
So the questions I ask will be very different. But sometimes, ang nakakatuwa, even if I don't say that, even if they're not Catholic, no, may naging kliyente ako na African American, and then recovering cocaine addict siya. But what really made them very like stay sober was their Christian faith, no, not Catholic but Christian faith.
Yeah.
And going to church made them clean, kept them sober, the community support. So sabi niya, that's really saved their life, no? Parang, so sabi ko, do you want to use spirituality as part of your treatment? No? Tapos sabi niya, yes. So I take my cue from the client. I don't impose. If it's there, then we use it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't impose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Ang galing ng
beautiful.
ano eh. Yeah. Kasi diba when you marry two hats, kasi okay, you're you're in psychology, and then you have
Yeah.
of course you're a Jesuit, so parang paano mo siya babalansin, like
Mm.
which hat are you gonna put on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ayan. But in father's case, there's a marriage between that, and I think that's how Emmaus is. Tama ba ako?
Yeah.
Oh, di ba?
Exactly.
Sisegue ko na.
Nice segue.
Right, di ba?
Galing, galing.
It's
Galing,
how
galing,
Emmaus
galing.
is about.
It's
I learned from
psycho-spiritual.
them.
Yeah.
It's psycho. Yun. So yeah, punta po tayo dun sa Emmaus. It's psycho-spiritual. So
Yeah.
maybe for the sake na po of the listeners who are not yet familiar with the mission of the Emmaus Center, can you maybe give a briefer of
Yeah.
what is psycho-spiritual? What is the
Yeah.
psycho-spiritual approach of what Emmaus is practicing?
Yeah. So Emmaus Center for Psycho-Spiritual Formation has been around since 1981. No? So it was started by a Jesuit who passed away already, Father Benny Calpatura. And the original mission of Emmaus Center was really for the formation of priests, religious men and women, and consecrated lay communities. No? So imagine nyo, 1981, hindi naman ginagamit yung psychology in terms of religious formation and seminary formation. No? Parang it was very new. So Emmaus was one of those pioneering institutions here in the Philippines and in Asia who brought in psychological processes to be part of formation in the seminary. So parang, kumbaga, doon nagsimula na parang yung you look at yourself as a human being, your psycho-emotional self, your physical self, but also your spiritual self, and then your relationship with God. No? So those are the psycho-spiritual dimensions. And tinitingnan talaga yung kabuuan ng pagkatao. Na parang kumbaga, pagpapasok ka sa seminaryo or sa religious life, hindi ka parang nagiging anghel na wala ka ng katawan, wala ka ng, yung parang gano'n. No? But you really try to integrate all of those things. And I think that's very important, even up to now, no? Na kasi nakikita niyo, di ba, sometimes we split our spiritual life and our like other parts of ourselves. So parang, di ba yung, okay, pag sa harap ako ng Diyos, ganito ako, mabait ako, ganun. Pero on other days or in other parts of my life, I'm a different way. So psycho-spiritual formation tries to integrate all of those things. No? And integration means, parang ang ano ko dun is harmony. Di ba pag harmony, pag sa kanta, hindi naman siya one note. Iba-ibang note eh. But when you play the different notes in a harmony, it makes good music. It makes music, di ba? So it comes together in a good way. So ganun din yung psycho-spiritual. Parang we're not supposed to just be one note beings, no? Where there are different parts of ourselves. So some of them can be contradicting, broken, wounded. Pero lahat yan kasama. Lahat yan tinatawag ng Diyos at lahat yan gagamitin ng Diyos. No? So we try to espouse that kind of formation. So I'm a product of Emmaus formation kasi nung novice ako, novice master ko si Father Benny. And right now I'm heading his so that kind of experience is not lost on me ba na parang wow, I'm on the shoulder of this giant in this ministry. So I'm just grateful.
Full circle. Nako, si Bian likes that metaphor, the harmony, the different notes. Sure,
Di ba?
sure all, parang
Uy, ikaw rin naman eh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
No, so ako parang my understanding of I don't know, for a lot of people or I've encountered a lot of clients who
Mm.
aren't even familiar with the story, whether they are well, obviously if they weren't religious, they wouldn't know what the story of the road to Emmaus was.
Ah, yeah.
But even the religious clients, I'm sorry, not religious as in like people information, but like deeply spiritual, deeply Catholic
Mm-mm.
people, they
Mm-mm.
don't even know the story. They actually think parang Emmaus, ano ibig sabihin na Emmaus?
Ah,
Parang
ah, ah,
it's
ah,
not,
ah,
it's actually Emmaus. Pero
Yeah.
syempre
ah, ah.
that's too snobbish to say. Pero um is it, the reason why we get our name from
Yeah.
that story is because of
The
sige ikaw na
story
lang
from
Father George.
Hindi, ikaw, pwede ka.
Yes, daw
Hindi,
ito,
So,
Patrick.
okay,
okay.
fine. Sige.
And it's from the Gospel of Luke, di ba? Yung parang one of the resurrection accounts of Jesus after he died and rose was that he appeared to these two disciples who were walking away from Jerusalem, going to this village called Emmaus or Emmaus.
Yeah.
Actually, Emmaus can be. So,
Okay.
and they're walking, they were feeling down kasi parang feeling nila na palpak yung kanilang hope, parang the Messiah that they were hoping for turned out to be parang it ended very very badly. So they were
Mm.
dejected, they had lost hope. So they were journeying towards that in desperation and despair. And then on the way, Jesus appears, pretending to be somebody else, no? And
Yeah.
then in the course of that, they were talking and then nabuhayan sila ng loob, no? Parang Jesus began to explain to them the scriptures and what it meant. So, and then at a certain point, parang nawili sila. Parang sumama ka na sa amin, sabi nila kay Jesus. And then they went and then they had a meal which stands for the Eucharist, no?
Mm.
Parang he broke the bread, yung ganun, the Eucharistic movements. And then they recognized him and then he disappeared, no?
Yeah.
From their eyes. So and then they were transformed from being dejected, in despair, scared, defeated, no? They became proclaimers of the good news. So parang may conversion, may
Yeah.
transformation na nangyayari.
Yeah.
So it's the story is good for the journey. It's very meaningful for yung ganon, no? Parang it gives so
Mm.
much hope that the Lord journeys with you even when you don't recognize Him.
Mm.
He's there. Yung mga ganon. So it's full of meaning and insight.
Yeah. So that's I think that's one of the things that really attracted me to the center in the first place is because um, essentially what it is that we're doing, our job is, on the background is to fulfill the calling of Jesus to us, which is to be Jesus to others also. Without
Yeah.
explicitly saying so, na parang,
Yeah.
hey, I'm being Jesus to you. I am blessing you.
Yeah.
Convert
Yeah.
and change. But really just
Yeah.
as you were saying, diba, parang it was Jesus walking with them,
Mhm.
having a conversation,
Mm.
allowing them to really, parang essentially giving them space and allowing them the freedom to express themselves. And then
Mhm.
eventually, by the end of it, they come out from it transformed and
Mhm.
changed. And that's
Yeah.
such a beautiful, I think, metaphor
Mhm.
for the kind of work that we do, even if it isn't, explicitly spiritual work. And so,
Yeah.
wala lang. Share lang. Ganda lang. Salamat.
Di ba?
Yeah, actually,
Nakaka-excite.
good. Yeah, yun actually,
Yeah.
I think yung interesting and challenging with the core nga, yun, yeah, journey with them, yun, yeah, to eat with them, to walk with them. I think in today's especially situation or circumstances, it's very difficult for us to have that kind of with them with
Mm.
people now because the with
Yeah.
that we have now, kunyari ito, it's digital. It's something that we're not
Oo nga.
accustomed to. Just this is my digital hat on. See ko na.
Mm.
How did you shift that? Kasi di ba
Mm.
you are used to that in person, kumbaga, consultation sessions, how do we call it?
Mhm.
And then how did it shift now? Mayroon bang like differences and probably limitations and whatnot? How was the journey basically of transitioning?
I'm sure si Patrick also has a lot to share about it. No? Pero ako, first of all, it was really born out of need, no? Na parang, even during the early days of the lockdown, I was already getting parang requests from people na parang, can you talk to this person? Can you talk to this family? Um, somebody in their family died of COVID, yung mga ganun ba. So I found myself really in a position na parang pag hindi ako nag-shift agad, ay parang hindi ako makakatulong sa iba. So it's really born out of that need. Pero actually, so nagsimula doon individual, and then slowly as a center, we decided to really shift to online. So ngayon, even our programs have shifted online. No? In fact, now we're starting this past 2 weeks, we've started a long program, an 11-day program, live sessions for around 40 mga formators ito. No? So you can imagine, varied ages, may mga batang pare, may mga pare in their 60s who are navigating Google Classroom, Zoom, mga Mentimeter, yung mga ganun. So natututo sila.
Cute.
So what helped us really just to respond to the need, parang if you don't shift, talagang walang mangyari. Pangalawa is then you realize there's actually a lot of opportunity here, no? Kasi yung halimbawa, the program talking about, we suddenly found ourselves being able to reach people outside the country or outside Metro Manila, no? Na otherwise, kung physical program yun, would limit us to those who can come lang, di ba? Eh ngayon, talagang, so there's a lot of growth opportunities there, reach, people who didn't normally access these things are able to access. So there's a lot of growth. But of course, the challenging thing is internet is so bad, no, in our country, parang feeling ko. So that's one na parang palagi kang on edge na taka lang anong mangyari. So in my sessions, pag individual sessions, I always have a long intro talking about yun, kung anong mangyari if we get cut off, no? What are the contingencies, especially if I'm talking to people who are acutely in distress, no? Halimbawa, may emergency, tapos this person is going through something very difficult. So we lay down clear plans, no? Emergency or contingency plans. Kasi nga, may ganun. It's very unpredictable. But other than that, talagang okay na ako sa online. Parang isip ko nga, kahit na siguro magbalik na sa physical office, I will still keep an online practice.
Yeah, it's very helpful.
Diba?
Especially for a lot of people who don't normally have access to this service because of schedules or because of logistics.
Yeah.
Ngayon like now, dati kasi I would split my time between Katipunan and another clinic, and I can only ever do that other clinic on one day. And minsan I would only ever go to that clinic and I would only really have maybe 2 or 3 people. But now I can spread people across different days. It's very convenient.
Yeah. There are things that you don't see, pero parang halimbawa parang you don't see the full person, the body, parang ganun. But hindi rin parang isip ko it's a mindset, parang it's a mindset. You can really still fully be present to the person, provide that space, even virtually. At nakita ko, it also, ang isang plus factor nito that I don't know if people realize is that people feel less intimidated to see you kasi they're in their comfort zone.
Yeah.
They're in their living room or their bedroom. So parang the intimidation they feel if they go to a doctor's office is not there. Kasi parang di ba if you see a therapist, parang you go to a doctor, parang ganun. Nakakatakot. Ito, they're in their comfort place. So parang in a way that there's a plus there, I think, that people don't realize, but it's good. So parang kumbaga mas madali to make them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's definitely a mixed bag also kasi there are some people who really find that it's comfortable for them at home, but there are other people then at least some people I work with na parang I really need to get out. I really need to parang retreat talaga. So but definitely more often than not it's very comfortable for some people.
Tsaka it presumes that they have the space, no? Kasi sometimes challenging din yun kung you're in a house tapos wala kang private room. Doon so meron ganon, it helps. So pag wala, it's very difficult.
I guess it's the same way kasi kaya din yung experience nila Max Maxine last
week.
Na parang they really had to dedicate a space for schoolwork. So ito, I think you're dedicating a space for counseling.
Right.
And ganun din yung mga clients or the patients. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a galing. We have space for that.
We also have those ano din parang we set that up or we kind of not impose. We kind of encourage them then kasi to find their own space. Kasi sometimes these people are bringing in, family problems and they're
Yeah.
taking their sessions in the house with the people who are their problem. So talagang
Yeah.
encourage them talaga to take the
Right.
time, take the space,
Mhm.
even
Yeah.
if it has to be like outside your house,
Right.
in the in the balcony or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
I'm also very glad that we've moved our programs to online. In fact, little known fact, si Father Jordy is actually hosting. Usually, kasi the programs of Emmaus are open to formators and some
Mm-mm.
very select like
Mm-mm.
secular parties. But now we
Mm-mm.
have programs that are open to the
Yeah.
public. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that, Father
Sige,
Jordy?
Yes.
so we started, so mostly, yung sinabi ni Patrick na parang our programs are usually for formators, no? Seminary, religious congregations, and mga consecrated communities, mostly church folk, in other words, no? But one of my interests was really also to how can we address some needs of more lay people, no? So we've started 3 weekend. We call it the living with anxiety in uncertain times. No? So it's a living in uncertain times series. So the first 3 sessions is living with anxiety. In October, late October, we have living with grief in uncertain times, no? And then mindfulness, sometime in December. So in my mind, these are just like 3 weekends that they get a different perspective, of parang just different perspectives, some skills, no? And for this run, for yung living with anxiety namin, 3 weekends, we had 60 people who joined, no? So parang we have the last one this Saturday. No?
Yeah.
And really, it's a way for them to understand what anxiety is all about, not to be so judgmental about it, to give them space. No? That, Kaya ang title din niya is Living With, is because hindi siya managing anxiety, or hindi siya
Yeah.
getting rid of grief. Hindi siya yung parang ganun. No? It's really how do you live a full life given these different emotions in different states. No, alam ni Patrick ito kasi pareho kami ng therapeutic approach, acceptance based. No, kasi a lot of things in our life we're so resistant. We want to get rid of it. Parang I don't want to feel yung parang there's a pressure to always feel good, and if you don't feel good, there's something wrong with you. So the approach here is part of our life is really just to make space that we're human. We feel anxious, we feel sad. No, there's nothing wrong with us. We validate that parts of ourselves, and still be able to do what really matters to us. No, so yun yung parang the general approach there. It's acceptance based, but it's also very evidence based kasi ang daming research na nito, no, na parang a new approach to anxiety, to depression, no, na hindi masyadong harsh, hindi siya judgmental, hindi siya yung parang may diferensya sa iyo, parang gano'n. So, it's very gentle and compassionate.
Galing. Baka pwede tayo humingi
Sorry,
ng
go
ng patikim.
Oo.
patikim. Like the tips po, Father. Especially
Yeah.
for those like yun yan, having a journey.
Right.
Ulit? Tama, nakalimutan ko agad.
Living with.
Living
Diba?
with
Yeah.
anxiety.
So I think the first thing that an important thing that people need to remember is that especially during this time, if you feel anxious because you're living during the time of pandemic, that's valid and normal. You're just human. You're a human being, and of course you are anxious. No, there's nothing wrong immediately with you if you feel that. No, it just becomes problematic when you are anxious about being anxious. Alam mo yun, yung parang, ayan, natatakot na ako. Oy, ano ba nangyayari sa akin? Abnormal na ba ako? Parang ganun ba? And then, it adds to it, and it adds a layer of judgment. Kaya siya nagiging problematic. No? So, just to acknowledge your anxiety and say it's normal, no? It's also good to acknowledge the physical parts of anxiety, yung parang kumakabog yung dibdib mo, gano'n. No? So parang huminga ka ng malalim. No? Minsan, yun yung isang bagay na we take for granted. The power of the breath.
Yeah.
No? How important it is to breathe properly. May binabasa akong libro ngayon na ang title lang niya is Breath, the New Science of a Lost Art. Yun yung title niya. Parang, it's so fascinating na parang how we're evolving into a species na we don't breathe in the same way and that's affecting our well-being. No, yung parang dumadami yung sleep apnea, yung respiratory diseases, no? Kasi parang we're breathing very shallowly. Yung parang ganon, no? Part of our lifestyle. Yun. It's a very interesting theory. Pero ang point doon is how powerful breath is, no? And you can look at this online, ano yung parang deep breathing, belly breathing, yun, parang hinga ka lang na hindi yung ito yung tumataas pero yung belly mo. Alam ni Bianto kasi for singing, for mga gano'n, di ba?
Sa yoga rin, Father.
Yoga,
Sa
yun.
yoga din.
So yun, parang things like that are basic but cannot be taken for granted, are helpful to help us gain some well-being even during this anxiety-provoking time. No? Yun.
Galing. A small anecdote on breathing. Actually, breathing also helps your posture. Proper
Yes.
breathing.
Yeah.
So, yung
Nag-yoga
ibang
ba kayo?
attention
Do you do
dito-
yoga?
I do. I practice yoga po.
Siya lang. Ako hindi.
Si
not.
Patrick,
Diba yung-
convince pa natin.
Ang pinakamasarap sa yoga, di ba yung pag the last pose, di ba yung after you do all your poses, yung parang the corpse pose, yung Shavasana.
Shavasana. Yes.
Yung parang hihilata ka lang ganun, hihinga ka lang, yung parang you need that time to just lie there and breathe, to incorporate all the benefits of the stretching and the whatever poses. Yan, yung parang hihinga ka lang. Minsan hindi natin yung ginagawa, hindi natin nahayaan yung sarili natin, huminga lang tayo ng malalim.
Yes.
Oo. So kailangan nating i-reclaim yung practice.
Yes. Yun nga rin yung gusto ko dun sa Shavasana pose, yung nakahiga ka lang. It's also
Higa ka lang.
mindful lying down eh. Kasi hindi mo alam kung tama ba yung pagkakahiga mo. Like sometimes, okay, nakahiga ka sa floor pero hindi pala relaxed yung shoulders mo. So, yung kailangan mo siyang, I have to breathe. Kailangan mo. So it's also, there's also mindfulness in there na parang there's a proper way of lying down or a
kasi
more
parang,
relaxed way.
parang you're so stiff, you're so parang,
conscious ka masyado. So yeah. Patrick, sorry, I think I caught you kanina.
No, not at all. Okay na ako. I think one of the things that I was curious about, and I never really looked into it, I think, is is there like a spiritual... Ako meron akong parang anecdote on this, but then, is there like a spiritual connection, almost like a religious experience when you breathe?
I'm so glad you asked that. Kasi kung titignan mo, there's something deeply spiritual about breath. No? Literally kasi, breath is life. No? And when you read the Genesis creation accounts, how did God create human beings? He took dirt, formed it into, diba? And then breathed. No? The breath of life, literally. No, it's talagang ang lalim-lalim nung ibig sabihin nung breath. No? The Holy Spirit is described as breath, no? As air, pneuma. So yung ganun, there's something deeply spiritual about it. And even if you just engage in a breathing practice, you can use that as prayer, no? You breathe in the Holy Spirit, breathe out your negative thoughts, yung mga ganun, no? You can incorporate that in your prayer. Para sa akin, it's such a deeply spiritual thing that the breath is life, literally, and it's also not just physical life, but spiritual life because it's the spirit of God.
Yeah. Galing. I heard this was it a metaphor? Not a metaphor. Parang, I think historically, the word or the name Yahweh isn't even said or isn't even spoken as Yahweh or isn't even spelled as Yahweh. Parang in Old Hebrew, I think it was spelled as YHWH, and parang it's supposed to simulate the act of breathing. And so the worship leader who kind of said that in the service is like, so when it's as if you're saying, or you're becoming one with God, or you're allowing God to kind of occupy you with every breath.
Yeah.
So wala lang, parang
Ganda, no?
Oo.
It's, di ba? Ang galing, lalim.
Pero
Oh, wow.
I think
Father,
definitively...
ano pa?
Sige, sorry, go B. Ikaw muna. Ikaw muna.
No,
Go, go.
go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah.
Ikaw
I
na,
can,
ikaw na.
sige na nga. Okay, fine. I was just wanting to say, like, I think definitively, um, this is one of my favorite conversations on the show. I just wanted to say.
Ako naman, ako
Oo,
nga,
masyado nga
hinihintay ko
tayo
matapos
nag-enjoy
yung
eh.
episode.
Oo nga, hanggang ano oras
But
ba
yeah,
tayo?
I
Masyado
am
tayo
enjoying
nag-enjoy.
this.
Actually,
Oo.
hanggang 8 nga lang
Actually,
talaga
Father, dahil
dapat
to
tayo.
online. Kaya nga yung beauty rin ng online eh. Huwag
Ah.
natin pagunin si Justin.
Oo.
kahit hanggang bukas daw po tayo. Father, hindi po ba kayo na-inform? 5 hours po tayo. Okay.
Maawa naman kayo, may trabaho pa tayo bukas.
Oo
Ganun.
nga.
Oo, meron pa tayong live. Ayan. So,
Yeah.
Father, yun nga, so we talked about kanina yung mga programs niyo that you opened up for the day. Ano pa po yung ibang programa ng Emmaus na baka
Yeah.
po we can enlighten our
Yeah.
our viewers?
So, so Emmaus, we have the programs really are formation courses for formators. No, so it's like a whole curriculum of different courses. No, so may parang fundamental courses, parang basic in human and Christian formation, about religious vows. They will learn about boundaries in ministry. They will talk about processing skills or assessment skills information. So it's really geared towards people who are forming seminarians, religious brothers, religious sisters. No, tapos ang dami nung range. So, siguro we have around 15, 16 courses, no? Iba-ibang lengths, iba-ibang ano. That's formation courses for formators. That's one. We also have mga programs for those naman who are in formation. So hindi sila yung formator, pero sila yung going through formation. So we have psycho-spiritual integration workshops for them, sexuality workshops, self-awareness, mga journal writing. We have someone who was trained in the Enneagram who does Enneagram workshops. No? So that's the parang program side. Tapos the accompaniment side naman. So we have accompaniment services, psychotherapy, and spiritual direction. No? So Patrick is one of our very busy psychotherapists. So he's seeing a lot of clients, both seminarians, religious, and lay people. No? So we offer also that service for them. So there's group for formators, and then other for workshops and programs. Plus we also have accompaniment services. No? Yun yung ano namin. That's the range.
Okay.
I know I should be able to answer this question, pero for the sake of lang, how does one get in touch with Emmaus Center? Or how can we learn more about Emmaus
nga.
Center?
So we have no, we should. Alam mo, we're with all this shifting online. We're busy fixing our website. We have a Facebook page, no? So Facebook, Emmaus Phil, Emmaus PHIL, kasi Emmaus Philippines, Facebook. And then you can email us at emmaus.center.ph. No, haba, no? Pinaayos ko pa yun. So parang, but they can contact us through Facebook na lang. That's the easiest, no?
We're actually very responsive nowadays on Facebook, actually.
Oo
Our
nga,
page.
oo nga.
Emmaus
Yeah.
Center. Yeah.
So kasi lahat is online, so we have to be on top of that, no? So we're trying our best.
So, for
Yeah.
the sake din po, Father, ng mga, well, Father and Patrick, kasi I know we talked about this before, then we had guests din sa different centers, no? So, how does what's the first thing that they should do if they want to have like a counseling with you or a session with you? Ano po yung unang step, and ano kailangan bang maghanda ng ganyan? Ano ba kailangan maghanda?
So good. If they can go to the website at the Facebook page, and then they can send a message, and we will give them the in fact I can give you, siguro hanapin ko lang yung, I don't want to be mistaken, we have a cell phone number so that they can go for an intake. So that's the first step. If they want to go for psychotherapy or counseling or spiritual direction, it would be good for them to go through an intake process. So an intake process is an interview. Now it's online, no? So that they can express what they are hoping to gain in therapy, counseling, or spiritual direction. And then their history will be taken so that they can also be matched with the proper provider, no? Counselor or SD. So that's the first step, to go for an intake interview. Okay?
Yeah. Bigay ko ba yung cellphone number?
Oo, alam mo ba?
Oo.
So,
Sige.
Oo.
Guys, bear in mind that this cell phone number is not a hotline. It's just for inquiries if you want to
Yeah.
schedule. So the number is
Yeah.
0916 556 9173. Right? Just
Okay.
indicate your name and that you'd like to inquire about accompaniment services and
Yes.
or programs. Pero hindi po siya hotline. Pag tumawag kayo, walang sasagot. Ay, hindi naman. Meron ba? Sasagot po, sige.
Baka
Depende.
not right away, but somebody will get back to them for sure.
Okay.
So
Thank
bear
you.
in mind,
No, lagi ko dala
it's
dito.
not an emergency. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But when they do get in touch with you, ganun kasimple, Patrick. The name,
Ano?
contact number, again, hindi, when the first time that they reach out, kaya mag-reach out sila sa either sa
Mhm.
cellphone or sa
Or sa
Facebook,
Facebook.
or
Mhm.
email maybe. Kailangan bang ikwento na nila agad?
No,
Why they
absolutely
want
not.
it?
not.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Because they might not be ready for it also. But yeah, so
Mhm.
we set a schedule with them for, as Father Jordi
Mhm.
explained, an intake session.
Yeah.
And then they can just, spill everything there.
Okay.
It almost simulates a therapy session because it's not over the phone lang, it's also face to face.
Yes.
And in a secure environment also. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
Correct.
yun lang. So Father
Thank you.
Jordi, our
Okay.
next program is they can't join the one on Saturday anymore. The next one is
Yeah,
next
that will be the last one. So the next one will be in October. They can also go to the Facebook page for them. It's Living with Grief. These uncertain times, and I know that there's a lot of people who've lost loved ones, maybe, or not just loved ones, but other forms of losses, no, like jobs, livelihood, even the loss of our former way of life, no, is a source of grief. So we'll try to make space for all of that in a way to understand, no? And parang the intention of that program is also to find people who are going through similar difficulties, no, and find some strength there and support. So yeah, that will be the last 2 Saturdays of October, and then the first Sunday of November. First Saturday of November. So it's a 3
Yeah.
Saturday workshop.
Sana magkaroon pa ng part 2, Father, or leg 2 of it for those who missed it. That
Yeah,
are
yung
sa
interested
anxiety.
after this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're thinking about it, no?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sige
But
po.
it seems pretty successful, I think. If I might say so myself.
Yeah, nagulat din ako. We were really just thinking, siguro mga 15 people would come, no? So mga around 60, no, came, and yun na nga, may mga habol pa, pero it's hard kasi it builds, one session builds on the other. So yeah.
Mhm. Sige po. Maybe we can go to the comment section muna, Father, before we
May comments
invite
pala.
you to say your
Meron.
Okay.
your bilin.
Okay,
So
okay.
we have, hello Les. And of course, Jamie Duran is here. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Jamie.
Miss Jen is here. Good evening.
But di ko
Sabi-
nakikita yung ibang comments.
I don't know.
nga,
I don't
weird.
know.
Anyway,
Father sabi ni Jamie, PGH loves you.
Yee.
Oh,
we
and I
also
love PGH.
Yes. We have someone from Lipa. Hi, Casey. Hi, Riley. Emily is here. We also have, Father from Bonisa, Mondehar. Hi, Father
Oh,
Jordi.
si Bonbon
Happy
from
for-
Cebu.
Yes. Oh, yes, from Cebu.
Yeah.
Happy for the path
Yeah.
that you have taken. Hope you can visit Cebu one of these days or be a speaker to the
Yeah.
HSH ABC community.
I'm sure it will happen very soon. Oo nga, kahit
Oo.
online.
Kahit online, definitely kaya online. Father John G. Sampaico is also here.
Ah,
Father and
Oh.
Joppy Badoy. Thank you.
okay.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
si Tita Eva's also here. Hi, Tita
Oh,
Eva.
hi, Miss Eva.
Paano nyo saan nyo nakikita yan? Sa Facebook?
Oo,
Sa-
sa Facebook.
Sa Facebook
Ah.
po ng Radyo Katipunan.
Katipunan. Okay, okay.
Kaya pala
Sige.
kasi I'm on the MindEd one. Okay. Sige, fair enough.
Okay.
Okay. Kaya pala.
It's okay. Yeah. Okay. Sige po, Father, baka we can parang ask you to share some final words, final blessing.
Final words, final thoughts, final blessing na lang.
Yeah, final blessing. Siguro, final thoughts. Una, thank you very much for this. Parang isip ko, masyado tayo nag-enjoy. No? Parang as you can see, I'm very
May part 2
passionate
pa tayo,
about...
Father.
Oh, I'm very passionate about this thing kasi parang it's very personal, but also I feel like it's especially during this time, no. We had a big meeting of Jesuits last week, and then one of the things that I heard from that meeting was yung parang how mental health really is going to be a very crucial area in the next few years and even decade, no. And we need to kind of prepare for that. So siguro ang final word ko would be during this time, let's draw on our sources of strength and hope, no. I think, and we have a lot of that, and I believe Filipinos are really resilient, no. Nakita ko yun sa PGH, nakita ko yun sa iba mga tao nakita ko, nakausap ko. Now is the time to really shore up on that, on our sense of family, our social support, and also our spiritual support. Yung yun, talagang malalim na pananampalataya at pananalig sa Diyos ay ang laking bagay sa mga panahon ngayon, no? And I've seen that. So I hope that we draw on that all the more, and not to feel and judge ourselves for feeling anxious. Uncertainty can lead to anxiety, and it's normal during this time. Let's just give space for that. No, as long as we are still able to function, then that's pretty normal. No? So parang wag tayo maging masyadong fearful or judgmental about ourselves. Yan lang siguro. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you so much, Father Jordy. Again,
Thank you,
seriously,
Father.
I sincerely, I mean this, favorite conversation so far.
Sana tayo naaliw, Patrick. Mga psych nerds.
Oh yeah, sorry. Little
Yeah.
known fact, yun nga, like one of the favorite things that so many good things about Father Jordy. But one of my favorite things about Father Jordy is, apart from myself, he's also an acceptance and commitment therapist. So super happy about that.
Oo nga.
Father Jordy, thanks again for being and making
Yes.
time for us today. Kahit na super short notice yung pag-move namin.
No problem. Sige, thank you also.
Father.
Sige, maganda itong ginagawa niyo, pagpatuloy niyo, and more power to you.
Yes,
Sige.
po, Father.
Salamat
Okay.
po, Father.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good
See
night.
you. Bye-bye. Good night. Okay, guys. So this has
Bye,
been,
Father.
again, MindEd, your weekly slice of mental health tips and tidbits. My name is Pat.
And
And
this is B. And still a letter. Good night, everyone. And thank you again,
night.
Father
See you
Jordy.
guys. Bye.
If the sky is dim, I will be your light. If the night is cold, let me be your warmth. When the darkness falls and you feel alone, when your heart seems lost and weary, I will lead you home. I'll walk you through. My love for you is everlasting. No storm, no barrier, no battle can keep me from being your refuge and safety. I'll walk you through. My love for you is everlasting. No fear, no threat, no darkness can keep me from keeping you safe and loved. If the tears go by, I will wipe it dry. If the strength subsides, I'll be by your side. When the darkness falls and you feel alone, when When your heart seems lost and weary, I will lead you home. I'll walk you through. My love for you is everlasting. No storm, no barrier, no battle can keep me from being your refuge and safety. I'll walk you through. My love for you is everlasting. No fear, no threat, no darkness can keep me from keeping you safe and loved. Tomorrow, when things may be the same, burdened still, but tomorrow I'll walk with you evermore. Trust in my hand, I am holding you. Hold my hand, be at peace, there's a promise you. I'll walk you through. My love for you is everlasting. No storm, no barrier, no battle can keep me from being your refuge and safety. I'll walk you through. My love for you is everlasting. No fear, no threat, no darkness can keep me from keeping you safe and loved. I'll walk with you, I promise you. Hold my hand and be at peace.
It is only after seeing man as his unconscious, revealed by his dreams, presents him to us, that we shall understand him fully. For as Freud said to Putnam, we are what we are because we have been what we have been. Say what? With the help of Pat and B, let us understand mental health and explore how we can take care of our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. Catch MindEd every Friday, 2 to 3 in the afternoon. Only here on Radyo Katipunan 87.9.
Sa'yo